boss just
Oh
said,
yeah,
let's go.
the boss said we ready.
Let's go. It's like, Atlanta, I just sat down. I just got into work. It's too late now. The meeting started. Well, good morning, everybody. And well, I can't timestamp anything anymore. So ultimately, thank you for listening to the Financial Griot. It's your host here, Lawrence Gonzalez, as well as my co-host available, which is Atlanta, with a TA at the end, because I always mess it up. And as well as lovely Mel DeLuce. And we really talk about our financial stories, understanding perspectives, and even things that we see in social media in regards to financial literacy in ways that could actually help you and make sure that you're becoming more actionable with your life. In today's topic, we're going to be talking about these kids. And that's going to be the title probably, because in some way, shape, or form, this new generation is kind of different. And I'm not talking about like the millennials or the digitals after that. We're talking about Generation Alpha. Oh yeah, you didn't know that there's an actual name for them, Generation Alpha. They were born beyond the millennials. They're born in like 2005 and 2000 and upwards, I believe.
Yeah, 2003 and uppers, I think. 01.
Oh, 2003. Yeah. So they're going to be
Yeah.
a whole different generation of kids that are living on different societal standards, norms, understanding, perspective. If you had to think about it, like my great grandmother was a farmhand. Like that's all she did. She already worked at this farm. She did all of that. My grandmother, she also worked at a farm, but eventually moved to the city, Port-au-Prince, to be specific, from the DR. And she was a migrant worker that started a little bit of a side hustle thing that she was just selling, cremas. She was selling whatever she could. And she basically afforded my mom's generation opportunity to go to school. So they all actually graduated like high school, the equivalent of high school education here. So they all have that only because my grandmother was able to focus her mind and understand that the importance of it is to really get your kids educated. And from that point, my generation, I'm one of the few that actually, attended college and actually finished as well. So I'm pretty sure the next generation is going to be different. So in this article provided by the New York Times, the opinion stated that I grew up poor. How am I supposed to raise my middle-class kids? My children do not understand my world, and I do not understand theirs. So I'm actually sharing this with my co-host. So, hey, I'm gonna let y'all jump in because I did all this intro like a pro.
I appreciate that, LG. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whenever you're listening to this. I'm Atlanta, one of the other co-hosts, and thank you, LG, for enunciating that T. You always say Atlanta. I'm like, what city is he talking about?
Because the city is real. The city is a real
but
place.
I'm not the city though. I'm not the city. I'm the original. Atlanta. This is a very good piece. I didn't even know New York Times wrote a piece about this. When was this published? Do you know? Grew up poor.
Yeah, I'll open it.
November 24th, 2021.
Okay, so this was recently.
Yeah,
so this is
like
a recent
Thanksgiving opinion.
Okay.
It's by I'm gonna give the author credit. Oh shoot, New York Times is trying to make me subscribe again. Never mind. I was gonna give it's a black guy that wrote it. I just can't get to his
I got it.
Let's see. No, I beat them. I beat New York Times in your face. I have my ways. Eso Macaulay. That's how you gonna say his name, Macaulay? Oh, they actually they beat me again. They figure out my hack. I love how the computer, like whoever the nerds are, they're like, let's beat these hacks.
And I noticed their podcast on a daily, they're shortening up the pieces to the news pieces. Like they didn't want you to subscribe.
Like this is okay. Kind of the way I work around this as well. I hit the listen button, so then you can listen to all of it.
In your face, I didn't know that.
Hey, you don't want me to read? It's okay. I can listen.
I can listen. I was gonna say, so the article that Lawrence mentioned is an opinion piece on New York Times. Grew up poor. How am I supposed to raise my middle class kids? I slightly went on a low key banter this morning, a tangent, and I do notice that there's a huge difference in raising, help raising in some aspect of my nieces or my nephews, or just observing how their experience is totally different than my siblings and I. So my mom is a widow. She raised 6 of us. So 3 of us was born in America, and the 3 my older brothers were born in Haiti. So when my mom brought my older brothers here after the unexpected passing of my father in the U.S., it was just a lot of conflict, right? You have a huge generation gap where they kind of, grew up in Haiti for the most part of their lives, and they come to America, where me and my other siblings grew up here. Then you have my mom, who was like really struggling financially to raise all of us financially, and that was a huge burden for her. And I do recall, I guess we all recall too, like translating for our parents, reading things. I'm like 6 and I'm reading this, bill or whatever, trying to translate it into Creole. But I remember how like strict my mom was, but she kind of placed that discipline within all of us. I was telling you guys this morning, we could not chill. There was no chilling coming from school or waking up in the morning on a Saturday morning. You had to kind of do all your chores. At night, the sink is clean, the trash is out. Everything was in order because my mom just had this protocol where she's working, make sure, the house is clean. That was like number 1. And I just look at, these kids who just, on the laptop and on this Roblox. My nephew loved Roblox, right? On these Roblox and stuff, spending hours and hours of time. My niece loves anime. Hours, just, she got bags under her eyes at 10. Hours watching this stuff. And I'm just looking around like, nobody see this mess, what I see. And, sometimes I feel like they label me
you sounding real old right now.
I guess I am the auntie in all this. It's a toxic auntie a bit, but yeah.
Everybody forget that the rich auntie is a very toxic auntie. She be coming in really mean. Like, I think we forgot that kind of auntie. She was rich, but she never gave you money. She never gave you any of that.
Oh yeah, I barely gave him. I barely give him money.
Like, you're like, she looks great. She looks fantastic, but she was not that kind of friendly auntie, if you remember correctly.
Yeah. I never give him that. But I noticed where, like, observing my nieces and nephew, where they have options, right? Not to say the options are bad. Like if they, whatever you want to eat for that evening, like, what do you want to eat? My mom never asked me what I wanted. I think she asked me one time, and she was making bouillon. She asked me, do I want boy in it or something, she said. And that was like the only, a memory I can recall her asking me, what do I want to eat? She cooked. If you're hungry, you ate it. If you're not, you're just not hungry, and that's what it was. And they have all these options, and the room and a space to kind of showcase their feelings, to express their feelings, where when I was younger, there's no expressing anything. My mom said what she said, and you listen and you follow, right? But it's kind of like this hard space to understand that where's the line, of raising children, because you want them to have the best experience, the loving experience too, but you also don't want them to be so privileged and not understand, like, everyone doesn't have this lifestyle, like they don't have all these privileges. And I was telling you guys earlier, my first laptop was a recycled one. My brother gave me my laptop when I went off to school. And the first laptop I actually purchased when I was, I think, over 21, I saved for that laptop, or I used one of my scholarship money or something for a laptop. And I'm just like, I cannot relate to them in a way that, is personable a bit. Cause I'm just like, I really feel like that auntie, like, I don't know. I feel like old school a bit, like, I don't know. I don't get it. I do not get it. But it's one of those things, like, how can you raise them in a middle class and you want them to have the best experience, but you also don't want them to be spoiled, and understand that, sacrifice that was made. You have to be grateful, like, these kids think, money really come out of thin air. I don't get it. What do you think, Lovely?
Lovely was caught off guard. She was like, what? Like the rant was going. Lovely didn't know where she was coming from, where she was going. Are you in, Lovely? Are you saying anything?
I'm in, but I was just moving the article to the second screen so I can prepare my rant and my piece and everything. And I'm like, dang, I lost the article. I was shocked. Everything just went haywire. But essentially, in reading what the guy said, I don't remember his name right now. Was it Richie?
Esau Macaulay.
Man, that was totally off.
That was so off.
Yeah, I'm like, whoa, the fact that we remember this and you actually had the article. That's hilarious.
Oh man, why did I think about Richie? Okay, somebody Richie. Okay, for whatever. So oh man, I don't know. Whatever, it's cool. But essentially, something that he said that in the article where he was pretty much saying, I don't want to be that guy that labels poverty as a learning experience. Like, I don't want to be that person, because it's like a thin line of having your kids understand that you don't have determination because you kind of have everything handed to you on a platter. But poverty sometimes gives you the gap, that desire gap, that then often sometimes pushes you to then have determination, because you kind of have to get out. We can probably track back some of our breakthrough moments by being in a low place, by being in a place where you don't have, or you need more, and you have to kind of push through. I realize that a lot of my perseverance comes from watching my mom persevere, right? And just going and getting those breakthrough. But then there's another thing. I realize when something is coming too easy, I'm like, wait, what's going on? So it's like trying to balance which part of it was good for us. Discipline is always good, right? In some senses, there's no, whether rich, poor, whatever, in the middle, discipline is needed in life. You need that. And so is poverty or lack the only way that we can teach children discipline? Or do we need to understand that parenting needs to be transformed? Because now our kids are not going to be on the farm. Our kids are not going to be, my mom had a cleaning business. That's not what my kid is going to end up doing. So I need to understand that my kid is essentially going to be moving in a different space, a different community. Their interactions are going to be different. But at the same time, I want children that have good character, right? Like, I want them to be integrous, and I want them to have good morale. But are we saying that for kids to be that, they have to necessarily be with parents that don't have? I think there's this complex that we've associated discipline, kindness, and goodness with people that don't have enough. That people that are rich and have money can't be kind, cannot be courageous, cannot be disciplined. And I think there needs to be a split in understanding that some of the characteristics that our parents have taught us are maybe more about who they are and not necessarily their circumstance in life. Like, even maybe if your mom had money, she still would have been like, oh, who about to clean this kitchen? You need to get in here and do what you need to do. So it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, what privilege are we talking about? The privilege to have options, the privilege to parent different, the privilege to go through life a completely different thing, because our children are not in the same generation. They're not going to experience the same problems that we have. Each generation kind of have their own set of things that they have to go through. I think it's up to parents, essentially. I don't have children yet, but I think it's up to parents to decide what environment do you want to create for your child, regardless of how much money you have. My child is never going to know essentially what not having a choice is in certain instances, unless I just be like, I'm not going to give that to you. But it won't be because I can't. And they kind of have to reconcile with that. Our parents said no to a lot of things, or couldn't even give us the capacity to even choose a meal, not necessarily because they didn't care what we wanted. I have $100 this week. That's what it is. It's $100. And $100, you're going to get bouillon on Monday, leggy maybe on Sunday, depending how good the check was, or, Friday, whatever it was. But it was like, okay, they had their own limitations. But now we don't have limitations, essentially, to say, well, the fridge is overflow. Now you have snacks galore. We're out here shopping in Costco. Okay. BJ's.
Executive Costco membership. Exactly. Let's put it out there.
No longer Winn-Dixie. Winn-Dixie was the standard.
Executive, Publix, and all that good stuff. Let's say that.
Exactly. So for me, it's just like, my opinion about it is things are different. and we have to kind of accept that they're different, but then we need to then choose what values do you want to instill, because there are children that, and quote unquote, like Lawrence is always saying that we don't know what the super rich, the 1%, how they treat their kids, what their dynamics are. We're just only alluding to it. Now we are quote unquote middle class and above, wherever we are.
What's middle class too? Depends on the state, I guess.
It depends on the state. It depends. The thing is, for us Haitian Americans, whatever we got right now, we know dang sure our parents don't have.
Right.
So, like, even if they're not middle class, we're not.
We've been middle class out here in these streets.
Yeah,
we've been middle class.
We done passed that baton, because my mom was working. I seen the thing for my immigration documents, because I am going to become a citizen. Got to throw that in there. Shout out, right? Essentially, she was making $4.75. I saw that on the paper. It's real. Like, it's like $4.75. It's bananas. So I can't compare how she's parenting. She's pressured. She's stressed compared to me. I don't think I'll be in that position to be saying that I'm making $4, or even the equivalent of what $4.75 would be today. So let's say $4.75, in 1996, now is maybe $15.75. I won't be making that. So I think the question becomes, I guess for me, I'm processing this as we're talking. It is going to be different. And I think there's nothing that we can go back to, but we can decide what were some of the good experiences. I think Atlanta was mentioning this. There are some things that I'm realizing now that my parent did that wasn't bad, because that's why I'm great at what I do at work. I'm disciplined. I'm not showing up at 8:15. I'm not showing when I'm supposed to start at 8 o'clock. So all of these things to say, we then get to decide as new parents, a new generation of parents, what was good from the past that we need to bring in here. Because I think what happens is people want to throw the baby with the bathwater type of thing, and just say that everything our parents did was bad. It was toxic parents. They hit us. I personally don't believe in corporal punishment. If you guys did not know, I don't believe in hitting kids.
They hit you? No, they hit me all the time.
Yeah, I don't believe in spanking or
sparing the rod. They say,
huh?
Sparing the rod. They say.
Yeah, I believe in the beatings.
No, I don't.
Me too.
I was beat.
Beat that. Beat that.
No. Love is like, no, we don't do this no more. Not
I think at a certain age, though. I think at a certain age, you can talk to them more, like that taller and stuff like that. You kind of don't do that. But after a certain age, I feel like you can talk to your kids better. But sometimes you gotta knock these kids out sometimes. It's just one punch.
You gotta knock them out? Like,
you know what? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But my mom, let me tell you guys something. After all the like beatings I got a lot. You know what I really remember? How my mom cussed me out so bad in front of people. That embarrassment would stay with me longer than the actual beatings, like in front of my friends and everything. Yeah, that right there really, yeah.
We pulling it up, but
Lovely said we're not gonna do this.
No,
we're not punching the kids.
No, we're not punching the kids. I've literally done the research. I've read the books. I understand the context of everything that comes along with it, and the damage is bad. Like, people are flinching out there. Like, people are flinching because their parents was like, you guys heard that noise that I made?
Keep your guard up. Hey, you gotta keep your guard up.
Hey, but did you die? Did you die? You didn't die.
I got into whoopings in my lifetime. One, because I was fighting in middle school for defending myself. Number one. The second time is when my sister lied. Vanessa, if you're listening to this, you lied about.
Damn, Lovely.
Yeah, I'm so mad about that. I have not.
This is a real PTSD episode. It turned.
Lovely. You just shouted at your sister.
Yeah, I did. Vanessa, I'm talking about you. She said that I cut her hair like bald when I didn't, and my mom whooped me for it. And then in the morning, she realized that because I told my mom, you're gonna whoop me, and I'm not gonna change what I said. Because she wanted me to confess to something that I didn't do, and I said, no, I'm not confessing. You can whoop me till sun up, till sundown. I'm not confessing, which I did not do. I have that spirit in me, that Haitian spirit. You're not gonna tell me that I said I did something that I did not do. Those were 2 whoopings in my lifetime, and both of them were injustice. They were 2 2 whoopings. 2 of them were
Damn, Atlanta, do you hear the privilege? She had 2 whoopings. I was out here clocking them in like they were steps.
Yeah, I got a
Fitbit
lot.
steps. Like,
It was at a point where my mom it was no belt. My mom's big. My mom's 6'1", 6'2", and I was like a little kid, whatever. Mom was beating me like a man. That's probably why I learned how to fight.
No, but even in the 2 that I got, they were injustice, because one, I was defending myself. Like I didn't start this fight. This girl wanted to cheat on my test, and she called me the B word, and she got in the hallway. She pushed me, so I had to then respond to the act of aggression that she completed. So now the second time was my sister lying to me. So now I got 2 whoopings that I did not deserve. This is called injustice. And I started to think, if my mom just talked to me about the situation, because I came home, I'm like, okay, you can grab the belt because I got in the fight. It is what it is. I won't be in school. I was that kid. I'm going to give you the facts. I'm going to give you the information. Got 3 days suspension. Can we get this over with so I can continue about my day? And I was just that type of kid. And so for me, I was just like, a kid like me should have never gotten those 2 whoopings, because they were both things that I didn't have control over. And one of them I was falsely accused. So I'm like, if you had a kid like that, why were you hitting them? I tell my mom the story all the time. I'm like, and then she was just like, oh, now you would never get in a fight again. I'm like, I still would have, because it was still responding to someone's act of aggression.
So you got PTSD for 2 whoopings.
I do, because
it's Lovely out here about to go to a full protest in a march. Though. I'm
for
like,
2 whoopings.
She ready. It's injustice, no justice, no peace.
like she just going off on 2 whoopings. Is that?
Are you gonna take your sisters to civil court at this point?
I would have.
Just clear it out.
I would have. Because then the people in Haiti called and they're like, oh, love, we thought you were a good kid. Why are you cutting your sister's hair off? And I'm looking at them like, I didn't even cut her hair off. What the heck are you talking about? But I got my due justice, because her haircut was like a boy. And when we got to school, people were like laughing. And so I said, you see, you cut your own hair and you lied, and now people have to make fun of you. And then I felt bad afterwards. So then I had to confront her about it. And I was just like, this is why you don't lie. Because she was just like, whatever. But my mom's thought process was, you're the oldest. You should have been watching her.
Yeah.
If she did these things anyways. And I'm like, what the heck?
Oh, they never apologize for the game. They just, hey, it's already done.
Even if they're wrong. Yeah, it was no apologizing sometimes.
Hands up.
I think I can count on my fingers how many times my mom apologized. I don't think it was less than 3. Like, I don't even know. But I would say too is it took me years. I'm 32 now, but it took me years to kind of understand my mom thought process of why she was so abusive. My mom was physically, emotionally abusive, right? And I wish my mom had the capacity per se to communicate with me, because I was a very active child per se. And I think that the reason she was so combative is she was struggling internally for herself, right? And I mentioned this morning once on the pod where, my father unexpectedly passed away, where my mom had to raise all of us. And for her, like, the little amount of, if you're undisciplined or whatever that you do, she take that as like a slap in the face. And it's not like me talking back, it's me just questioning what she's saying, right? And she'll say that, okay, you being rude, and it was a smack in the face, like small things like that, where it's just toxic, creating this toxic environment. But I had to understand that her internal struggles and her childhood kind of just brought all this tension into her own parent and her own ability to parent. And I had to kind of extend grace to her to understand that she was doing the best that she could at what she had at that moment in time. And for her, it was only the beating. It was her. It's not talking back to your parent. It's not questioning your parent. It's not being, communicative to your parent. It's just that beatings, you listen, no talking back, and that was it. But I have come to understand that with lack of education, the lack of exposure, and then you have the financial struggle, you really create a toxic environment where you cannot talk. You don't have the ability to talk. It's just really just surviving at that point. And if your kids just do anything outside of what you're telling them to do, it was just combative in just this environment of not wanting your kids to question anything that you do. So yeah, I can definitely understand that, but I don't know, man.
For me, it's just like literally, it's exactly why you're saying what you're saying. That to me, I don't want to use that force, because my job is to help you understand, to regulate your emotions, for you to be, because if an adult did something wrong, right? Let's say we were all together and we went out to eat and I did something wrong. Alana, you wouldn't slap me in the head. You would correct me, right? Because why? Because you're an adult. You're essentially, like, a mistake is being made. The way to correct it or to address it is to speak to it and give context and clues. So if you wouldn't hit an adult when they made a mistake, a child is just learning how to become and how to experience this world. And so for me, it's my job to give you the safe space is for you to understand, because I don't want you to think that the recourse of life is just to be pushed, because what ends up happening a lot of times, other kids become violent because their parents are violent.
Exactly.
And so if you learn that the response is like, I'm biting or hitting, guess what ends up happening? You're learning that because oftentimes the response of your misbehavior is handled by you getting people are going to say, I'll probably get cornered with this one, but essentially like, oh, you're being abusive. And so for me, my job is I should have my emotions regulated. I feel like a lot of people, when they do get spanked or these things happen, it's because our parents did not know how to regulate their emotions. A lot of times the whooping is the rage from the hard day at work, spousal issues and everything else. And you're getting the rage of it. And very little people I can imagine are literally able to then discipline without carrying the whole weight of that process. So you're angry that the child's not listening, but it's
you're
like
taking out on your children. Yeah,
exactly. And it becomes like control. And I'm not here to control you. I'm here to guide you. I feel like children are a gift from God. I'm here to be a steward. I'm here to steward this soul on this earth for a specific purpose and meaning. And even when God disciplines me, when I think about when I sin, when I am out of alignment, it's not a hammer on my back. At least that's not my perspective of God. It is, yes, there's consequences. So I believe in consequences. I believe in addressing it. I believe in taking things away. I believe in manufacturing an environment where you understand that if you don't do these things, that there are consequences. I don't have to hit you for you to understand that. I don't have to.
You want to just one time?
No
popping.
No, none of those things. One time. No, I'm going to speak to them. I want to communicate that to them and give them the chance and the opportunity then to be able to communicate, not in a rude way, because there is a way to talk to people, not just adults. I want you to talk with compassion with your peers as well. I want you to talk to compassion, not because in our culture, it's like, yeah. But it's more so, no, I want you to learn how to communicate in a way that's compassionate and kind and have understanding. I want you to be able to be regulated within your own self and be at peace within your own self. I cannot show you that. And that's why I feel like a lot of us struggle with giving ourselves grace and giving ourselves, a way for us to come up, or self-love, because we are taught, like, if we're not in line, if we make mistakes, then we deserve like all this bad stuff to happen to us. And where's the grace and the ease of life? And I think we're not here just to go through bad things all the time or be hurt all the time. I'm not saying there's not consequences, but at the same time, I want my children to understand that there's a better way that you can handle your aggression. Be angry, understand your anger, and then be able to be regulated, because I see too many adults that can't regulate their emotions. And if the whippings, as much as our community, the whoopings and all these things were working, then why are these children, these adults are massively throwing big kid tantrums? You have not learned how to regulate your emotions. You have not learned how to communicate. You have not learned to be disciplined. Yet you were in a construct that forced you to be this way, but within yourself, you did not know the purpose of the reason of why, the why of discipline, the why of being kind, the why of extending grace. And I think the whoopings put people in line, but they do not do the transformation that they need within. And that's just my personal opinion. And yeah, can help for me in the comments. I'm good with it.
Hey, I think it's my turn to speak. My goodness, based on me.
Sorry, right. This is a low-key therapy session.
Yeah, I see. And I was like being thrown out. Like, can I not?
I gotta wait until next year to see my therapist. So this is my therapy session. She's on break.
All right, try to get it for cheap, huh?
Yeah,
for free out here. All right, cool. And I love that concept of big kid tantrum. I think there's a lot of people that are doing what is known as trauma dumping on other people. And we're rolling over issues that we had with something else that bothered us into the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And as that kind of piles on, you see pretty much, it's why I call it a toxic society, not because there's one specific thing, it's because we're basically sweeping all our issues under the rug and it's piling up. And at some point, that rug itself it becomes your room. So it fills you up and you don't really know how to deal and how to kind of go around and understand who you are and how you even interact with the world. So I kind of understand your point, Lovely. So I understand where your perspective from. As a person that got beaten a lot, I'm like, you only got 2 beatings, man. Like hey, I was clocking them in like all the time. Alana knows that she was sitting there like, look at that privilege, like privilege. So I was living in first I was living in fear of the belt, and then I just knew the belt was just something I'm gonna in any day situation it's gonna hit me at some point.
Did you grow out of it? Because at some point, because you're taller than your mom.
Oh yeah, like so
did she hit you?
Oh, at one point she hit me with the belt, but I think I went through a growth spurt that summertime, and it's like my muscular structure. I still have that within me. Like you hit me, I looked at her, I was like, huh. It's like I thought I was gonna hurt more. I thought this was gonna be it. And then it was that moment she looked at me in the eye, and I looked at her, and I looked at where it hit the impact, and I thought to myself, like, wow, I could see it coming. I could even grab it in my hand. And I think the next time she went for the second swing, I actually grabbed it, and that pissed her off completely.
Oh, that would definitely piss off. Yeah, I did that one time.
No, because it was weird. It's like first it hit me, then my next reflex was like, why am I allowing this to hurt me? And I just stopped it. And she was just kind of like, she looked at me like I was supposed to let go so she could hit me again. I'm looking at her like, why would I want to do this? Why would I want to allow you to do this?
Well, they say the self-healing should be done before you have children, because you just pass it on to them.
Yeah, and I think, you're right. A lot of people gone through these issues, and just like your mom went through her share of trauma with your dad passing. Like my mother, she had her entire imagined society in her head, like in which, well, she's gonna be married, she's the first girl in the family to be married, and she's gonna have these kids, her life is gonna go a certain way. And then my dad just leaves her along the way. Like he literally just leaves her pregnant, I won't say she was barefoot, but she was pregnant, and she literally had to walk a certain amount of miles, like to another stop in which she had to call her dad. And it was a whole level of trauma. To this day, that's probably why I could walk anywhere for a very long time, because even in that, you pass on that level of trauma to your kids through the womb. At least I perceive that to be the case. In this, to go back to the topic though, because there is an overall
we went.
This is another thing that our editor gets mad at us about. Like, but ultimately,
we don't stick to the topic.
Hey, ultimately to the topic. The Elevate community actually added this to their platform on Facebook. It's a group of Black financial literacy people, podcasters, YouTubers, so on and so forth. And they added the opinion piece. How do you really basically asking, how do we perceive our kids will be, our middle class kids will be, how will their life be different from ours? And to be honest, every generation is different, and every generation goes to their share of struggles, traumas, and even career shifts, because they're not going to be working the jobs that we're working or how we're working those jobs. Maybe they even live 90%, work from home. The heck we know. We have no idea. That might be the case. And the social dynamics that they're going to have to navigate is going to be different from ours as well. While we perceive, Black and white being the only struggle that exists, you're going to start seeing a very much a class warfare in which only, some people are super rich and some people are, not going to get out of being super poor. So there's going to be some level of struggle that they're going to have to kind of navigate, the toxicity, the anger, the violence, and they're sure of what do they own as part of it. I even wrote to this comment, which a lot of people don't write to that comment the way I do. I'd later said my kids are going to be bougie and privileged. Like I grew up in Haiti, like where there was no electricity kind of ran here and there. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. There was no
different
running water.
Cities and stuff.
You're
yeah,
like we didn't have food all the time.
I experienced that.
Like I used to go to the fridge. Like when you were kids, you went to the fridge multiple times as if like food would miraculously pop up.
You keep looking at it, and it's never gonna change.
It's never gonna change. You go right back to the fridge. Like seriously, man. Like I wish I could go back to as a kid and slap that kid, man. Stop it, man. Just stop it yourself. Drink water, man. Stay motivated or something. So ultimately, my kids are not gonna really feel that way. They're gonna probably see a pantry full of food, access to this, that, and the third, and they might even look at you like, "Hey, I'm gonna order some Uber right now because I just ain't feeling the family meal." You know, that's the level of privilege that they're gonna grow into, and I'm not really mad about it. It's just the way that the world is, and as we excel in life, as Lovely stated, the lessons that we're gonna have to teach our kids are gonna have to be different. And from those lessons, they're going to impart themselves differently. So to that next point of PTSD from the trauma and the idea of surviving Blackness, right? Or at least our version of Blackness, where we were poor, our parents were struggling. I think part of it, you're 100% right, Lovely. It's a lot of to do with rage and mental health trauma, to Alana's point as well. It's people not being able to process what's going on with them and not having the compassion for themselves or even compassion for others. And that's what necessitates the moments in which they're fighting you and they're fighting, themselves, like all the time. And there is a difference between disciplining your kids versus just choosing violence. And I used to see that in my aunt's eyes. It's one thing to kind of correct the kid, right? But it's another thing to kind of go into a space where you're so angry about something else that you're lashing onto your kid as if you're beating that out of yourself as well. My aunt hated us smiling. Why? I don't know. To this day, I have no idea. She told us smiling is not something you do. You just kind of look blank face or something. It just looks very weird. So now I kind of smile out of like me forcing myself to be different from what I was taught. Because for her, I'm not sure she ran into somebody, she was smiling and she got punched. That could be the case. So she basically learned not to smile. There's a lot of little things like that in which people are imparting things that they thought would be good for us into their kids. But in truth, as we change in society, I think every kid is different. Some kids require more energy, more conversation. Maybe Lovely is the kind of kid, hey, you don't beat her anytime, to have long conversations with her like she's Oprah and she's gonna get it. But there's some kids literally, hey, a smack behind the head one good time might kind of clear things up.
Thank you.
Yeah, like, and for ladies, it's different. I think, there's our social gender kind of norms or something like that to that extent. But guys themselves, we're kinetic learners, right? You could tell a little boy like not do this, but there is going to be but sometimes you don't have to hit him so he could kind of know that, hey, this is a bad behavior and I should not be doing this. So every kid is different. And I wouldn't just say, let's talk to all of them, because some people that had stern talking to are now shooting up schools. It's getting weird, like stern talking, whatever it is. I've seen it. So in the guy's life as well, there's moments in which necessitates fighting, right? Or self-defense or defense of others. So I wouldn't want the person to be the first time they get hit is like that first fight that they have, and they're completely shell-shocked. For a boy, it doesn't really make sense.
There's so much other things that we can do. We don't have to.
I know. Look, hey, I know.
I'll be over there like kumbaya. All kids are not built different.
I'm not saying you go out there in the boxing gym. I'm not saying you boxing gym. Yeah, I would need the kid to know that, hey, when we get hit, we get up. Or we get hit, we got to kind of move away from the shell shock, right? So, and I'm gonna land with this. I think a majority of this has to come down with family finances. The stresses and the level of animosity, the anger that my mom felt, is likely because she was abandoned in this financial institution, which cost a lot of money to raise kids, to support kids, to feed kids. Like, it's not only to take care of yourself, but to take care of others, right? And it costs a lot of cash. Like your mom, Atlanta, like if your dad had life insurance, it would have kind of made things, a little bit easier on the family. So you wouldn't have to, like, as the person that lost that person, right? You wouldn't have to process the pain through more like almost like like, why did you leave me with all of this? Versus, hey, I remember him, I love him, whatever it is. Like, some people can't even process the good parts because all they know is the bad things that they had to unravel afterwards.
Yeah.
And I think without a good life insurance, I think that's very important, especially in the Black community. We don't necessarily have that. Term insurance is very important. I'm not going to tell you so it's not whole life, but the idea that you have some level of life insurance, some level of family plan for things when things go bad would actually make sense. I think a lot of times we're kumbaya and sometimes in our families, but we're not really, thinking about, hey, what if, somebody, hey, I can't work tomorrow. What if I pass away tomorrow? I'm gonna need to have a plan for my family to support them and secure them in case I'm not around for the next 20 years. And I think that's the level of planning that we need to do in order for us to move away from trauma, survivor's guilt, and all of that good stuff. So we're not just hitting our kids like we're punching them out and knocking them out into the wall.
Like a boxer.
But really disciplining in the right way in which you're kind of either talking them down, teaching them that hitting people is not good, or so on and so forth. There's a lot we can do, but I'm for sure my kid's going to be bougie as heck. AF, bougie AF. It's going to be a show.
Going to be a loving mother, but a tough mother.
So that's why that's my thoughts on it, guys. Woo! See, I brought that full circle. I'm always the guy to bring it full circle.
Yeah, it went different topics, but I definitely resonate on what everyone says, especially just talking to kids, just seeing where they are. I would say the positive part about observing my own siblings, how they interact with their kids, is actually allowing them to speak. If something's on their mind, or allowing them to express themselves. A lot of things I wanted to express to my mother that I couldn't, right? Because she just feels though you're talking back at her, but you're expressing your feelings. And it's just really cool to see my 6-year-old niece that I asked her what's wrong, why is she crying, to kind of understand what's going on. And she can articulate that very well, what is upsetting her, or something something her sister did, or whatever she's experiencing at school. Like, she can articulate that. And that is so cool to have that space in that room to accommodate for kids. Like, we didn't have that. And I'm just happy too. So I guess it has its nuances when you are growing up in a middle class, or growing up in an environment where your the adults in your life are well balanced, you can say. So it's dope.
Lovely, you all right with the trauma? Lovely out here. You're gonna hunt down your sister right now?
With your two
I'm not
whippings?
gonna hunt her down. I'm not gonna hunt her.
Hey, I still have a beef with my older sister too. Like, I got a cut in my finger every time I get a chance to pronounce it and let people know. I have a scar because of my sister, because she didn't want to cut my orange.
Mimi bit me on the side of I have a bite mark on the side of my torso. I had her, I had her in a headlock. We were fighting. Mimi, I still have that.
Like,
yeah,
still
she
have the
beat
scar.
Me. Yeah, but I beat her butt. She know how to challenge me.
Dang.
That's sister trauma. Always fighting each other.
Yeah, I guess it's funny that we remember all these like specific things about like our siblings or something.
And I don't even know why we were fighting either, to be honest with you. That was so strange.
I remember exactly where this came from. I asked her to cut the orange, but she never wanted to do stuff for me. She was always like almost like a hands-off sister. Mm-hmm. That was like more of her speed, or she thought like brothers are supposed to kind of figure it out on their own. And then she just kind of treated me like that. So even if it was reading or something like that, she was just like, figure it out. If it was math, figure it out. So I had to always process my way through life by figuring things out on my own. So I tried to do the whole cutting of the orange, and I'm cutting it, and I cut right into my finger. Because I was trying to do like the circular cut. To this day, I can't do that. The circular cut about the orange.
I never cut an orange unless I'm cutting it straight. Now I'm always just using my nails. Why you would cut it?
No, because there was like a technique that
okay.
Like okay. Yeah, it's a cool little technique, and then you have it just like you could use it all. I don't know. I just thought that was like the thing to do. So I cut right into the finger, and the blood started pouring into like the orange. Mm-hmm. And then there was like I think it was like a bun, like kind of a maid or something like that. I guess that's the only way you can say it. Like she passed by, she saw me bleeding, she panicked, she ran running, she called everybody. And before anybody I knew they were gonna come and kind of like try to fix things. I started jumping down in the orange. So it's like my first version of a blood orange. So when I heard about blood orange, when I heard the blood orange in America, I was like, oh, you mean like, oh, you added blood to this? Like I did that one time.
Mimi stabbed me too.
Damn.
No, it was an accident. It was an accident. We were playing around with those combs with the end of it is very skinny, those razor combs. Yeah. We were playing around there, and I don't know what happened. The comb just went straight. I still have the scar on my arm. The end of the comb, edge of it went just straight inside my skin, like on top of my arm. And while we were looking at it, she looked at me, I looked at her, and I didn't say anything. And then she started freaking out. I started freaking out. And she was like,
That's
and I was
cute.
like, take it out. And she was like, you take it out. So we pull it out. And of course, I'm bleeding. My mom come upstairs. My mom like, I can't leave you guys for 1 second without you being on each other or hurting each other. But yeah, she put.
But did you ever hurt Mimi though? Did you kind of, like you got all the scars, but did she have scars from you?
I don't know if she has scars from me. Maybe a bruise scar, but yeah, maybe it was abusive. Now that I think of it.
It's like you're the baby too. I guess that's why we're the babies out here. That we always complain. Babies always complain about everything.
You know, entering adulthood, that I think they have a soft spot for me because I'm always complaining about something when we get together, and they're like, okay, they kind of they don't ignore me, but they kind of like soften the blow when it comes to me because I'm always complaining about something.
Yeah, I think my sister said that's because I'm like the second child or something. I'm always like, I always think everything is worse than what it is. So I don't know if she's right or wrong, but I always kind of give her some level of credit that she is the first one. Maybe she's processed the world differently. And we, as the babies, we were like, man, you guys are abusive. They're messed up because we're all as the babies.
Yeah, I got into a lot of things with my siblings, but I think it just made me tougher. Inevitably, it just made me tougher. But yeah, I had a lot of scars. Like, and I think Mimi or Washi, they accidentally dropped the hot iron, so I have an iron scar on my thigh. Yeah. Oh. It's
Lovely,
a lot.
Lovely. Are you the
you got all these siblings.
Yeah, you unpacking right now. Lovely, you all right? Are you the second, first?
I'm the oldest, actually.
Oh, you got to wrap this game. Oh, that's why. You're a trauma dumper. That's why it is.
Yeah, I was the oldest kid. But
you're the one that gave other people trauma.
No, my brothers and sisters, they see me as a parent. I was a parent kid. So I'm more so like kept them in line. I did all the
mature one.
Yeah, I was always mature. I never like did too much to them that was super crazy, but to each other, my sister and my brother. Oh man, my mom told me the other day, my brother came through the house, took my sister, picked her up, just threw her on the couch and he said hello to her. And I'm like, wow. But my brother would never come and try to pick me up and throw me anywhere. It's like, oh no, that's like a second mom. So it's a different relationship. They see me more. They come to me for advice. They're waiting for me to test out marriage so that they can decide if they're getting married or not. So they just see me as a right. They went to college. Literally, they had them like, oh yeah, Lovely went to college. I think we should really do that. And so they all went to college. So that's what they always pretty much, whatever I'm doing well, they're like, yeah, Lovely did that. We can check this off our box. So they came for Thanksgiving. Not this year, but last year. When was it Thanksgiving? No, it was my mom's birthday. Actually, it was this year. So many things have happened. And they were sitting at a table and I had a couple of friends over and they were saying that and they didn't believe me. I'm like, no, they're not really going to, they're probably going to wait and see how it happens for Lovely. But it's a lot of pressure too, because if you F up your life, they're going to be like, well, man, dang, it's just how it is.
The pressure for the first ones.
Pressure is
you got to mess it up. And that's why I kind of mentioned my mom being like the first daughter. Cause I think she undertook too much of that pressure and it fractured her because I think some people are kind of OCD and in how perfectionist as well. So when it didn't work out for her, I think it really messed her up. And I look at her too, like I'm big on like looking at people and understanding where they're coming from, empathizing with maybe their condition, where they are, what makes them. And because of that, I think that's when she kind of like it jacked up her brain.
Did your mom ever marry? She never got married?
No, she got married. She got married to my dad. Like she was the first.
He divorced. He divorced her while she was pregnant. No, he left her. No, they didn't get divorced.
Left her, and I think later on maybe she's divorced. I still don't even know for sure if she is divorced or not.
Did she ever tell you like what was the cause, or you just know that?
I know the cause. You want to know the cause real quick?
He was out here thotting. He was thotting.
Oh, it's levels of thought out here. Okay,
the Haitian level thotting is different.
Oh no. This is different. This is different.
Okay.
Lay it on us.
Oh shoot, that might be a whole other podcast.
We can
that's a whole other podcast.
Okay, podcast.
No, you know what? Let me just rope it in here because I just want to kind of get it over with, pull out the band-aid. So basically, my dad slept with my mom and dad lived with my uncle and his wife when they got to the US.
Right.
Right. So my mom and her brother were, that's my uncle. That let's just theorize, like just remember that in your brain. So my dad slept with my uncle's wife. Yes, you see that shock look on your face, Lovely, that nobody could see on the podcast.
Under the same roof. Happened.
Yes. So because of it, that fractured like the psyche of my entire family.
And he left.
Oh yeah, well, it didn't leave. I don't know exactly like all the pieces as far as like when it happened. It was such a damaging thing to my uncle that kind of fractured him and his family dynamic for eons, forever, pretty much. And it also fractured my family dynamic because my mom was trying to figure out, is there something wrong with her? She was just trying to put foot on the table. She was probably just going to school, trying to do the work thing, trying to like do that, but she didn't see that coming. So because she's like maybe a perfectionist, an OCD person, like she tried to think things through like I do. I don't think she saw that coming, and that really messed her up. Afterwards, she decided, I guess, and she eventually said that around me or to me or something to that extent. She thought in her masterful ideas that she's just going to have another child, like me being the second born, whatnot. So she was basically having me to try to keep together her family.
I never understand that with women.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's because the first kid makes you perceive the guy as he's always here because we have this kid with us. The next kid, you're like, oh, I'm gonna reduplicate that so we could sink in this love, and then he won't leave me or whatever it is, right? So she, pregnant with me, and I think she brought up that fact to him, and he didn't give two smack about it, and that's kind of how he kind of just left her high and dry. Ultimately, she had to figure out the rest of it, like raising two kids on her own. So because she couldn't financially or time-wise, she basically sent me first at 11 months. And then she sent my sister shortly after. She's like 2 years older than me.
Oh, I didn't know you was 11. I thought you was already I thought you was already a kid when you went to Haiti.
No, I was 11 months old.
Oh, yeah, wow. I didn't know you was that young. Ooh.
Yeah, so basically almost like less than a year, like the November of the next year, I was sent to Haiti to live there. Yeah.
Yeah, most times with mothers, they don't depart with kids under a year.
Yeah, because then you're supposedly like you connect more with your kids, you do all that. But she had to make a decision because she couldn't like at the same time take care of me and bring food on the table. So she had to kind of just part. That was the best way that she could handle it. And because of it, it actually cost her everything.
Ooh, challenges,
like, man. Ain't that a messed up story? Like you did everything, but it still cost you everything.
It cost you everything. Woo!
Hi, everybody. So obviously we're getting knee deep into a lot of personal trauma and issues. So obviously if you are triggered by this, please take a step back and really take a time and place and a moment for yourself to breathe it in, because these are our financial stories as well as our stories are our personal lives. So hopefully you connected with some of the information and understood where we're coming from, and for you to actually take a pause and a break. So this is actually going to end up being in 2 parts. So you've just listened to the first part, and we're going to have a bonus second episode that has even more data, trauma, and all that good stuff. It's good to get it out sometimes, guys. So we'll see you next time at the next episode. So please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, and have the conversation with your family.